Welcome, everyone, to episode 21 of the Intersection 4 podcast. You have your three usual suspects here. You have Hamis, investor, Brendan, the founder, and me, the other founder, I guess.
Mhm.
After a brief hiatus of a few weeks, holiday season, life happening, we're coming back with another episode filled with AI agents. We're going to be talking about pretty much the same topic that the entire world is talking about. There's a lot of exciting things happening in this space. We have an interesting panel of experts here bringing a pretty holistic approach to AI agents. And before we started the conversation, and I mean, I'm just going to start the convo right on that spot. But before we started the conversation, so as you know, Brandon comes from a very much like pure traditional AI background. Pure maybe is not
Mhm.
the right word, but like traditional as in like his looking directly at AI as an individual thing. I have been looking very much at crypto and AI and the overlap between the two. And James has been holistically looking at both as an investor. And before I started the call, I mean, if you're minimally involved in crypto, you have seen that for the
Mhm.
past 2 3 months, AI agents have gone through the roof. Everybody's building their own AI agent, and everybody's attaching a coin to it. And some of these coins are reaching insane valuations, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars. And
Mhm.
before the call, I was mentioning this to Brendan. Brendan was like, "What? What? Like, did I hear that right? Crypto and AI in the same sentence? Crypto and agents in the same sentence?" So I think it's an interesting place for us to start. Why is there still such a because right now everybody in crypto is talking about AI. Everybody in crypto is talking about AI, but people in AI are not even aware of this like insanity that's happening in the crypto space. And I'm sure Brandon has some clear ideas there, but I want to hear how is your thoughts. Why is there still such a big gap between these two, and why haven't many reputable AI people started to look deeper into this space, or why is there still such like a disconnect? I guess.
Yeah, well, they can be like a very optimistic view of it, and then a pretty pessimistic one. The optimistic one is, the intersection of the technologies is happening, but the AI guys can barely keep up with the pace of research and releases in their own world, let alone think about, multiple technologies. But that optimistic view is eventually that's going to happen, and these technologies will help both the adoption of AI and crypto become much bigger. The pessimistic view would be that crypto is just jumping on its new trend, and it's going to ride it up. And every couple of years, not even every couple of every 6 months, there's a theme in crypto, right? Like there's a bunch of coins very focused on something very specific, and they make a lot of money, they lose a lot of money, and then people move on to the next idea. So it feels from the pessimistic view, it feels sometimes that the crypto is always looking for the new narrative, right? And every 6 months there's a new narrative, and this narrative right now is AI. um, I just feel that the pace of development in both technologies is just so rapid, but the flow of capital is so much more robust on the AI side that the founders have no need to really look at anything else. They're told by their boards and their investors to like just focus on the technology and get the job done. But on the blockchain side, they are now the second most shiny thing and not the shiniest thing anymore. So they're trying to you uh, push their way into being right next to the shiniest thing out there. So
Brandon,
that's like the pessimistic view of this whole thing.
any thoughts, man? Too. Sorry, Hamis, but any thoughts that you have there? Not just from your side, but I mean, just generally some of the folks that you've been working with. What surprised me is not necessarily that like all of you guys are not launching tokens. Like I wouldn't expect that. But what surprises me is that there's such a like I haven't even heard of what's happening in that side of the pond, right? Why is that?
Mhm. Yeah, Brendan.
I don't have any comments. I don't I don't investigate stuff just to investigate it. I need to like have a core reason or a problem, and then I'll go like see if it makes sense to solve it. I guess. Like, I just don't think we. Yeah, I think there needs to be a problem for us to do it rather than and think of a reason to how to integrate it just for it. Yeah.
One of the really interesting things, I mean, of course, like the reason to launch a token for a lot of like quick projects is basically immediate liquidity, and you have like immediate market action and so on, and you can open up to multiple investors and so on, and faster returns, all that, right? So that's very clear. That's always been very clear for crypto. But I think something interesting, and we might have talked about this in previous episodes, but something interesting that's happening in the in the AI space that we joked about, that we have our own version of tokens, which is credits. Every single B2B AI company or even consumer AI companies have credits or have a credit system. And a lot of, or well, some of the legit crypto projects, crypto and AI projects that are building like AI agents and whatnot, a lot of the utility that comes from this token is just basically, yeah, having credits. If you have these tokens, you have access to special things. One of the interesting things that I've seen happening in the crypto space is that since everything is supposed to be open source, and things are moving very fast, it's been really fun to see how quickly integrations and tooling can be built. So I don't know if you've seen this, Brandon, but the number one trend in GitHub repo for the last, I don't know, 2 weeks is this Eliza OS, which is basically a tooling framework to connect AI agents with multiple tools. So basically, it's a tooling framework for an AI agent to be able to tweet, to be able to parse the web, to be able to act on Discord, to be able to act on Telegram, to be able to act on TikTok, and a bunch of other social media platforms that they just build integrations with via the API. Okay, this is like a multi-billion-dollar uh, company or a multi-billion-dollar business or a multi-billion-dollar asset as a token dictates. You could argue that it isn't, or you could argue that it is, depending on whatever framing you want to do. But I think it's still very interesting to see the speed at which integration can happen when you have an open source framework. And maybe this is an interesting hook into the next topic here. That is, how are you guys approaching right now integration? Because I mean, just talking about Athena, for example, for Athena to exist, you need to build a quintillion integrations with a bunch of like data sources, with a bunch of like emails or email APIs for you guys to be able to actually perform the tasks that you want the agent to perform. But what is the approach right now to building tooling? It's just like, yeah, we'll build it everything in house, or is there anything like more open, dynamic, quicker, faster?
Yeah. All the above. We set some stuff in house. If we can, it's outsourced, or like it's an open source thing. I think each project demands like a different set of requirements for our business. There's certain things that we have to do in house because if it's connecting to a source system of data, unless they have HIPAA, SOC 2, and we add them to our sub processor list, right? So like if you're selling to an enterprise, and I say, hey, here's our data policy, I have to tell the enterprise every company that we sub process out to. So are we willing to, include that person on a list? If it's open source, obviously it's in our stack, so we don't have to. But if it's some third party integration tooling, we'd have to include them. So that's a risk that we hold every vendor that we bring into that data processing agreement. So yeah, it's a trade off that we'll make at every stage, and you can move fast and add a bunch, or you can build it all in house. There's some balancing act, and over the years we've kind of ran fast, slowed down, ran fast, slowed down, and kind of figured out what made sense for us.
Because like open source development, like that is something that obviously like uh, I feel that the crypto ecosystem or the crypto, people have really refined and almost perfected, right? Like with open source, not just development, but like being able to monetize that development, being able to compensate people for their contributions. I think they've made that the gold standard of how you coordinate the efforts of people from all around the world, right? And I think that a lot of the AI research that I see is also pushing in that direction, but they don't really have a very good way of monetizing it, of coordinating people's efforts in this open source environment. And so, as a CEO, I'm sure, Brendan, you're always thinking, the difference between closed sourcing and open sourcing, like your platform. And one of the use cases, you might not agree with this, but one of the use cases of crypto is that you can open source your platform and still monetize it. Like all these platforms are built completely open source, but their founders are still billionaires. And you can't really do that in, I think, just a traditional open source structure without the blockchain component to it.
I feel like the actual interesting parts of any AI open source project is nothing to do with the source code. It's just the data. So it's easy to be open source with a
100%.
framework because that's not the value. The value's in
100%.
like the accrued data and then maybe your open weights, but even open weights isn't useful unless you have the training data in the training pipeline. So that's why we don't ever see like a true open architecture, fully open, right? Even Meta is not open source, right? It's the weights are open source, but like the training pipeline and the data is not.
It's
So I think
stable,
like
correct? So,
the yeah the devil's in the details with most of these things
Mm,
of like
mm,
what is open source in a world
mm,
where the value's in the data.
mm.
It's
I
not sales.
100% agree with that take.
And
I
obviously,
generally
Sam
think,
is in the middle of all of this, right?
yeah,
Like
Yeah.
yeah,
data and crypto and open
yeah, yeah,
sourcing.
yeah,
So
yeah.
this is your piece, Sam.
Yeah. So I think open source development and just kind of like the framework that's been built around crypto and AI development works extremely well when you want to increase model capabilities by giving the model access to tools. But a lot of these tools need to be public to a certain degree, like they need to be basically API tools. But the moment that you want to go beyond that, maybe you want the model to have access to some data that you access in a very changing way. Like, I mean, if I go and I ask you, hey, go check out this video on YouTube and try to figure out something that is less tangible, that is less well defined, I think that's where a lot of this like ongoing development breaks because the data itself is still siloed. The data is still the valuable piece, and the data is still what makes models capable. But what I think is interesting is that if you're not really building to capture data that somehow makes your agent either perform better at different time or allows you to build some sort of training set that enables you to fine tune your agent to actually perform better at the specific task that you want it to perform, then basically you're just a tool builder. And it's okay, right? It's okay. Tools get you quite far, but it's never going to be something that actually beats any existing model at just like general baseline performance. You need actual data to be able to perform better at the tasks that you want your model to perform. Otherwise you're just giving, which is pretty much what's happening right now in crypto and AI. Otherwise, you're just basically giving your AI agent access to Twitter, and pretty much that's it.
So
So
so yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
one,
Go ahead.
one, one topic I think that'd be love to get your guys' thoughts on. So there's like two camps or schools of thought I think right now around agents that you feed a ton of data to, and then you train systems or you fine tune or do a bunch of like fancy stuff on the training data side, and then you have it go and operate. Give it tools and whatnot. And there's another camp which is give it all the tools and then let it touch all the
Mm,
systems and have some type of like policy where it can say like good, bad, and with enough time that policy should allow it to learn. So there's groups that said, hey, we're going to go download all this data, get all the training data, outsource labeling, and then fine tune these systems. And there's another camp which is like give it a ton of tools, give it a policy, and let it go learn.
mm.
I don't know if you guys have like you thought about this or seen success or have a belief on one or the other.
I have a quick comment here. I think the second camp of just give the agent tools and then it will either generate the data via interaction or will figure out the system. I think it makes sense, but I think the really big problem is that tool definition or tool usage or tool access is very constrained. Like the model, like if you ask me, and especially constrained when you talk about the real world. If you ask a model to, I mean, I was playing around with this today, but like if you ask the model to basically understand what is in a room and then basically draw some inference based on what exists in an environment, it's so hard for the model to actually be able to, without having the data fed to this model, it's frankly it's impossible for the model to go out into the physical world and say, okay, I'm understanding that in this office there's a bunch of computers, somebody's setting up internet, et cetera, because those tools haven't been defined. Those tools don't exist. Tools to access data that is out there into the physical world don't exist. So if you take that approach where you just give your base model a bunch of tools and then you just let your model figure out the policies on their own, it works when the problem space is very well defined. When the tool access gives you enough data or enough information or enough interaction to where you can achieve a certain good performance in a very niche objective. But when you want to branch out more, you need data, and you need data that comes from some source that is curated and that gives this model the ability to be able to actually start to perform this task better and recurrently start you start building the models and you start giving models the tools to actually grab more of this data and so on. I don't think they're necessarily entirely disconnected, but the point that I'm making here is that tools, as they are defined right now, and as most people are using them, are extremely constrained. A tool is basically just let the model make an API call. And if whatever you're trying to figure out or whatever you're trying to understand goes beyond the capacity of an API call, then the model can't just handle it. And I think that's kind of like the big challenge of
I
the current
disagree. I completely
tooling
disagree.
framework.
100% disagree.
Okay.
Like a screenshot tool. We do this today. We have a screenshot tool and we have a mouse click tool. Those two tools can do the entire internet.
Works really well for the internet, yes, but again, the internet is not. The internet
You
is
said
just like
that's
a
I
tiny.
think that's a very unconstrained problem.
It isn't
and I think
constrained.
the point being is like it's not an API call.
That's fine.
Two
That
very
is
generic
that isn't
tools and you're
constrained.
combined. Yeah.
Yeah, like you can navigate the web. Like that hasn't been a problem for for the last 4 months. I mean, dude,
Who's been able
Google,
to navigate
yeah,
the web? Who can navigate the web besides the latest model that no one has
Google
access to from Google?
Google built this extension, man, where they can basically just take over your browser and do whatever they want with your browser, right? Like this is very doable. Like asking an agent to go and book a restaurant for you, or click this, find this.
So not true.
Very doable.
That's so not
Very
true.
doable on the web, dude. It's exactly the point that you're
Who's done
making.
it? Who's done it?
I mean, dude, I can literally look up
Project Mariner.
the
They
Google
they
extension.
have a research one that just came out. It's in test phase. Multion, the founder, just shut down his project. H Runner. There's about 6 companies, none of which have been able to actually do it in any real sufficiency. I think it's a hard problem. It's not solved yet, though. But I don't know, Hamiz, what are your thoughts on agents?
I think companies. What I've seen is companies that are really investing in making the agent like a core part of their proprietary technology. They're going with approach number 2 because they want to train it on their data, on their process, and then own that agent, right? Companies that are in the front end of this, like where, kind of like tech enabled businesses and then tech businesses, right? Like the tech enabled businesses are like, okay, give me data that's the amalgamation of the average of all the companies in my industry, and I'll use the model, right? I'll get immediate efficiency, but it's not going to necessarily get better over time or be more specialized to me. And so they're going with approach number 1. Approach number 2, we're seeing the companies that are really taking it more seriously and saying we want to own the data, own the training, own the agent, and make it a core piece of our technology stack. So I think that those are the 2 approaches I'm seeing. Most of the companies that we're interacting with are building like custom solutions, and so they're going with approach number 2. I've seen most of the time.
Mm.
What is your take on these 2 approaches?
When you're like growing up and you're given some level of like pre-training, which is like your genetics, we'll call it, and then like you're given some education over the first 18 years, and like that's your learned policy. Maybe that's not the right way to think of it, but that's how I think of it. Is like, do you want to pop out with the model that's trained at day 0 and start using it, or how much time are you willing to invest in like getting your own training data at runtime?
I think it really depends on the problem space, right? Like there's a lot of problems that are very easily doable with models out of the box and just tool usage. But when you start getting into more complicated problems, or not necessarily complicated, but problems that just basically specialized or particularly that imply interfacing with data that is outside of the existing available training set, which is just the web. Like all of the web has been indexed a million times. All of the web is like very easily accessible for models, either via API or by just like screenshot and click. If you go beyond that problem definition, then your model just breaks. And this is pretty much what's happening with embodied AI and embodied physical systems and robotics and so on. Just like it's fucking hard. It's like it's really hard, and the gap is like gigantic in terms of not only the data available, but also how do you teach this to a model.
So Sam, walk us through what the original idea of the business was, and if it's still that, or how it's evolved. Because I feel I still don't have a very good grasp of what you're working on, if I'm honest, right? but it seems like it's like at the center of the topic we're discussing today. So
Yeah,
I'd love to
it's
understand like what the original thought was and how that changed, if at all.
yeah, it's still very much the same direction, right? Like the direction that we're trying to build towards is embodied AI. So this goes back to what I was telling you, Brendan, that I think largely problem spaces or problem definitions that interact with the web, either by grabbing web data, digital data, and interacting in the digital world, are very close to being solved at a large scale. I mean, like it's easy to have access to this data. It's easy for agents to perform actions in the digital world. But the moment that you try to take a leap to the physical world to understand objects, to understand humans, to understand movement, it's insane the chasm between what agents can do on a text-based approach and when they actually have to interact even with multimodal data. I mean, I like to give this example too. Like Sora came out November, December. VO also came out, and you still have hands getting generated with 6 fingers, right? It's like, or a video that is moving, and then you start like you take off and you start flying off to space, whatever. But the thesis behind ADON this whole time has been, can we build a system around game theoretical incentives of individuals that enables individuals to start to close the data gap for real world multimodal data? So take photos and videos and audio of the physical world and start to create this data space or this data, not necessarily a data set, but like start to map out the physical world and start to build technology around utilizing this data to improve models in their understanding of the physical world. So we have collected a lot of data so far. We've collected around 150 gigs of real world physical data. So your photos and videos of human interaction with different objects, photos and videos of humans performing different tasks, fine motions of your hands and your fingers. A lot of this revolving around the focus of robotics data or data that is valuable for embodied AI systems. And then we're just starting to open up this ecosystem to let anybody who has any data needs that are very bespoke, that are beyond what models can currently do or tools can be built to actually address those data needs, and let people use our network of data collectors, and basically build in this marketplace where a request for data comes in and then it gets fulfilled by our network of data collectors. And then we just basically build the tools and give the tools to both of course, the data collectors to actually collect the data, but also the data requesters to actually go and utilize this data to either fine tune their model or give them the tools to actually utilize this data as a new knowledge graph that they can access at inference time to perform better at a specific task, and so on and so forth. So it's a
Okay, and the crypto piece,
multi-modal data collection.
multimodal data collection network of contributors and users, right? And the crypto piece of this is to incentivize
It's not
the
just I
contributors.
mean, at a high level, yes, it's incentivization. Like you have a token and you incentivize people. That's okay. But I think the beauty of this is the reason why crypto comes in is because it's more efficient over the long term, but it's also like a philosophical alignment with the way that we want to see the world. We think the ultimate goal of AI is all of us, the same way that all of us have a phone, we have a physical system that also has appendages that can actually interact with the physical world, do things on your behalf in the physical world, and it's your model that you own, and it performs tasks for you. And then maybe when it's sitting Italy, goes and performs some extra tasks, make you extra money, whatever, teaches you whatever you want. This system where you have everyone having their own personalized physical agent, we want the system to be built on the foundations of a network that is open and decentralized. And what that means is basically just something that is not controlled by any central entity, and something that actually empowers the people that build the data or created the models, or build the network to actually enable this technology to emerge. So the contrast here is all of the foundational models out there have been trained on the web data by simply just scraping copious amounts of data, and then utilizing this to just go and create these models that perform really well when it comes to natural language. But if you have the same model in the physical world, you're basically just building exploitative exploitative chains of yeah, just basically exploiting humans to create physical agents. And this is not the future that we want to create. So the way the part that crypto comes in is that we can actually track with the blockchain at any point in time who contributed for the creation of a model. So the chain basically becomes an unbreakable record of contributions to the creation of a given model. So I contributed data. You, Hamis, you said, I don't know, you contributed compute. Brendan, you're a really smart guy and you know how to develop some really cool models using some data. You made some PRs to our GitHub repo. All of this gets written into the chain. All of this builds this record of contributions to basically track who contributed to any model. And then once this model generates value, the value doesn't really go to me or to you, Hamis, or to Brendan or to whatever company. The value goes back to the people that actually build this out. Data contributors, storage contributors, compute contributors, code contributors, and so on and so forth. That is the big vision, and that's kind of what we're trying to work towards here. But at a more objective level, we started all with data. It's the easiest way to let other people contribute for the creation of new models and build this compensation mechanism where people actually have a track record that they own the model that they're creating because they own the data, and the data was given consensually as well.
Very interesting. And when you see the AI tokens and AI crypto kind of interaction happening, how is that, like, how do you feel about it? Like, do you feel that this is like good experimentation? It's probably going to have a negative impact, positive impact? Because you are one of the at least few companies I know that are doing this kind of taking this intersection quite seriously and like really utilizing the two technologies. So I'm always curious to hear like their perspective on what they feel is the consequence, positive or negative, of some of this stuff happening.
Yeah. I think AI coins became the new meme coins, and that's the new meta. So everybody's launching an AI coin, and net, I think that's negative. Like that just hurts the credibility of the intersection, and it hurts the credibility of the few of us that are actually working to take this intersection very seriously and trying to build systems that are powerful, grounded in good technology, and that are also open and controlled by the network. That being said, I do think that even with this mania around AI coins and a lot of the flashy things of like a coin that goes to, I don't know, $1 billion over the span of a week or whatever you want, whatever example you want to cite. Even with all of that I think ultimately is net negative. I still think that there is so much to be explored in this overlap of these two spaces, and so much to be explored in the sense that it matters, man. It really matters. And maybe this is just me getting philosophical or whatever, but I think it really matters that if you actually want to have AGI in the next, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 years, or now, or now, or today, you want the value of the AGI to go to the people who actually contributed to it at every stage, and not just the people who were able to amass the most amount of data by dubious means or whatever you want to do. But the flashiness is just not negative, man. It hurts the credibility of the people who work legitimately at the intersection, and it hurts the space as a whole. I wanted to show an example. Just to wrap the spiel. I wanted to show a quick example of. I think I saw this over the weekend, and to me this really epitomized the problem here. So this guy Zaid or Zaid, I don't know if I'm butchering your name. I'm sorry.
Zed.
He's been
Pakistani
building.
name, Zed.
He's been building a really sick product called Mini Perplexity. So I think he took even the website down. Mini Perplexity is basically an open source version of Perplexity. Over the weekend, or I can't remember exactly when this happened, but over the weekend, I think he was sleeping or he was traveling, whatever, he was offline. And then some crypto scammer, literally, I mean, since everything was open source, he literally just copied the repo, created a token called MPLX, and it started shilling the token. And since the product was actually legit, everybody was like, oh, this is such a cool project, such a revolutionary idea. It went from zero to $25 million in terms of like the market capitalization of this token in 1 hour. And then all of a sudden, when Zay didn't want to like support the scam, basically they hijack the project. They basically say, hey, we're going to be your marketing team for this token. Any updates that you want to give it to us, and then we'll give it to the community. And then when they didn't want to support the scam, they basically just nuked the chart, and it went from 25 million to zero in seconds, man. So huge scam. This guy got extremely hurt. I mean, I cannot even imagine what this guy's going through. Very legit, non-crypto, pure AI builder, building a really cool open source framework, and then all of the crypto maniacs just come and fucking ruin that, right? I think this is not the way. This is not the way, and I think this net hurts everybody involved. It just builds more of that like lack of seriousness with which most people in AI see crypto people, and it just hurts the space more.
Are there any legitimate names that you've seen that
Yeah, of
sound
course.
interesting?
I think a lot of these frameworks are interesting. I think they're overvalued, but they are
Yeah.
interesting. So the Eliza OS framework, very legit. The virtuals.io framework, also very legit. So the Eliza framework is what I was telling you guys about. That is
Yeah.
a tooling framework that you grab any model, closed source, open source, and then you can just build a bunch of tooling around it.
Why is crypto necessary in ELIZA, Sam?
I don't know. I think that's actually a fantastic question, man. I think in maybe a really good way to see who is actually building something that makes sense from first principles is the token just a token? Like is the
Yeah.
blockchain part just a token, or is there some underpinning rationale for the token to exist? And many
Yeah.
times there isn't.
And most times, so when we got started investing in this stuff, what almost 10 years ago, we were trying to figure out how to make sense of it. But the one question that made sense of it almost all the time was, why can't you do this with a normal database? And 95% of them had no idea, right? And even if you just told me, hey, I'm doing it for capital formation, I'm doing it to raise money, that's still a use case. But most people would try to convince you that the blockchain was necessary, and it just wasn't, right? And so I think there's very few use cases where it really does have a real use case, and it's usually around, at least in my experience, human coordination and incentives. That's
100%.
usually the use case, and it's a fantastic use case, right? It's like very difficult to do that at scale, and these companies have been able to do that at scale. But outside of that, I found there to be very little other like use case, um, other than economic, human coordination, and incentivization.
The way that I approach when a blockchain is needed for a particular problem space, or even frankly more foundational than that, what a blockchain is even for, is the following. Blockchains invented a way for humans to agree about the state of a system at scale without the need for a central entity saying what is true and what is not true. That's a mouthful, but like, I mean, the really easy example is just financial system, right? The financial system held because banks told you how much money you own at any point in time, right? Banks and brokers and etc. And then blockchains came along and said, no, you actually don't need any central entity saying what you own and what you don't own. We can all collectively agree on maintaining the state of the system in a way that is distributed. Very few parts of society need this sort of a distributed consensus, this distributed agreement of what is true and what is not true. And apparently James very much disagrees with with the argument. But yeah, just to wrap up, 100% I think that AI is one of these areas where knowing where something came from is really important. Oh, dude, you know what? I think maybe the energy Dallas just yeah. Hope
That
he's okay.
sucks.
That
That sucks.
sucks.
That's another big AI topic. Energy
Yeah, dude.
grids.
I think maybe if anything, this is a good transition.
Yeah. No, I agree at a theoretical level, and I want there to be a distributed consensus of how models and data came to be. I think that is like a completely orthogonal access to like a business objective of startup. I think
100%.
they're if you can align them, that's crazy. Last time we tried to align a nonprofit in an
Yeah.
AI company, we hit a little roadblock.
Yep. No, I agree, and I think a lot of these crypto companies, they're not necessarily companies, they're just like ecosystems and networks that are trying to build something that is, to your point, orthogonal to
Like Apache, I love the idea
yeah,
with the
yeah.
Apache system, the open source community. For like, I forgot to mention, Zaid's project, Mini Perplexity. We have used that project in production for 2 months, I think by now. Like we're huge fan. We've
Yeah,
one of our good friends spoke. Like we tried to hire him through a proxy company of ours, like a company we work with. Like we're huge fans of Zayden. Like all the stuff he's put out. Very close with his work, and he's awesome. Um,
do you know about
yeah,
this? Do you know about this scam?
I didn't see that. No, no. But like I'll even like our app, one of our tabs, like part of our application is Zaid's open source project.
That's so cool, dude. That's so cool.
Yeah,
I had seen Mini Perplexity before, so when, when I saw the token, I was a little surprised because like in my mind bucket, those were two separate things. Like Mini Perplexity would never touch crypto, so when I saw that, I was like, oh, what the fuck? But then
yeah,
what happened, right? So,
yeah.
um,
One of
but
one
yeah,
of
man,
our one of our companies that we work with actually got bought by Big Perplexity. So we got Mini Perplexity, we got Big Perplexity running around on our tech stack right now.
that's
Yeah.
good. That's good. I also think an interesting question here, man, is what you were when I was talking about AGI, etc. And you said AGI now, um, or this year or coming very soon. I want to get your thoughts on the current state of what can or cannot be done by agentic systems. Like even take Athena for example. Like we had this discussion before, right? That like Athena is not going to replace a data scientist, but it's basically going to replace a data scientist using it versus somebody who's not using it, right? But is that it? Like, is that the end goal, or how far can we take the capabilities of a lot of these models to actually be able to perform far beyond? And I'm not talking like augmenting humans. I'm talking performing far beyond what a human can perform. And where is that delta? Why are we not there yet?
We're there. It's just cost prohibitive. 100%. Like I
From
think with
what
like
perspective?
anything,
Energy?
you show me a human in the job they do and give me resources and we'll build a system that can do it full stop. It's just at what cost, right? I think like that's why what we've seen is we haven't hit a pre-training ceiling. We've hit a pre-training relative to the other axes ceiling, which is like the dollar's going to go to the low hanging fruit. The low hanging fruit is no longer pre-training. We have more opportunity to find that to resource that dollar somewhere else.
Such as?
Uh, Test time compute, agent architectures, right? Because like I can put another dollar into pre-training, or I can put a dollar into um, test time compute, or I can put a dollar into rerunning that model 3 times with various temperatures, getting different outcomes, and then doing a grading consensus system to see which one is most likely. So I think like anything, you can the dollar is going to find its way into like the gradient that's going to help it accelerate the fastest. And it was easy for us to throw the dollar at the pre-training problem set. We've kind of maxed that out, and now the dollar is best spent at test time or at the application layer.
That's a really good way to
At
put
least
it.
that's my theory.
I think I generally agree. I think that's a really good way to put it. The diminishing returns rate of just like training your model on either more data or throwing more compute at it or making a bigger model is just like very much diminishing returns, and progress being defined not necessarily by any sort of like scaling laws, but rather by where is it more efficient to invest this money, and if the money is more
Yeah,
efficient to be spent in inference, augmentations, tooling, then that's where the money is going to go, and that's what's going to drive the progress.
because what's the latest one? I can't remember what the latest model expectation. It's like 100 million. It's insane. Like think about that. Like the latest model is 100 million. The first one was what 10, 20,000, and then
Yeah,
it was like jump, and the latest one is like 100 million is the estimates I think for OpenAI. So like you could keep going. You're now spending $1 billion per training run per run. Like it's the numbers they start to not make sense. So it's like yeah, you'd spend $1 billion on one training run, or
and
you
then
could
this
spend
is this
that.
is but okay, so maybe a way to rephrase the question is models available today, can they take us there? Because you said like it's cost prohibitive, but is it cost prohibitive what to run those models? Is it cost prohibitive to continue to scale those models?
You can get there today with the models. It's just you're going to spend your money on data collection, pre-training, test time compute, tools, and yeah, I think most problems today with enough resources, dollars, honestly, just dollars at the end of the day, you can solve the task. Yeah.
Interesting. But dude, but then what is limiting? Like, I want to go back to the either the pre-training or the fine-tuning side, because what is the limiting factor here? Like, is I know we talked about that. It's like is cost prohibitive, etc. Then what's the alternative, right? This alternative to come up with an entirely new architecture, to have like some massive explosion. I mean, so many things have been talked about: synthetic data, new architectures. What are you hearing in the space about, closer to the research side? What are you hearing in that space around what is the avenue forward to continue to scale at the model level, not necessarily at the tooling, compute, the some compute inference level?
Uh, I think the model level, it's test time compute. It's still there's still those are still model improvements. To be clear, it's still at the core layer. They're just yeah, it's just a new axis which we're just finding ways to put money against. Um, yeah.
Welcome back, Anish. Sorry,
Hello.
welcome
Hello.
back, Amiss.
Sorry. Yeah, it sounds like as soon as I jumped off, the conversation became way more interesting. So maybe, so
Yeah,
maybe
we
I
started talking
shouldn't.
about crypto.
Yeah, so maybe I shouldn't be on these things.
Yeah. Have you guys been following the test time compute? I can give a quick update on
No,
it.
I'm
Are you
not
talking
following.
about test time training? So basically, as the model performs inference, you adjust the weights dynamically for that specific task, or are you talking about something tangential to this?
No, there's to date. Let's get roll the clock back a month ago. Every model, basically every model, was pre-trained,
Hmm.
and then at inference, you said, I have this many joules of energy. Give me an answer, and it gave you an answer.
Hmm.
And if the problem was, what is the capital of the United States? Washington D.C., or if the problem was solve the millennium problem set in math, it spends the same amount of joules of energy to create the tokens and then to answer your question.
Okay.
There are now mechanisms to spend more energy on certain problems. So this is the 0103 reasoning
Yeah, yeah,
that
thinking
OpenAI
frameworks.
put out,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a million others that are coming out. And the 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 insight is similar to humans. If we're taking a test, we don't spend the same amount of time on every test answer. We allocate resources more and less efficiently against different problems. Or another way to think about it is search. Search in chess or in AlphaGo or any of these systems is about spending time to then determine when do you want to stop. That is now a a lever you can turn in the LLM world, which is the first time we've had that lever available to us, um, and it unlocks an insane amount of value. Because think about, you can just turn this lever. And interestingly, the lever we haven't seen the diminishing returns technically or dollar wise yet. So we have not seen the technical uh, diminishing returns on pre-training, but we've seen the dollar diminishing returns, which is the latest model is $100 million to train. It's now cost prohibitive, but actually the diminishing returns are not on the actual technical side. It's dollars related. That's an opinion, but I think that's roughly agreed on. Now on the test time compute, we haven't even scratched the surface of technical or resource dollars of diminishing returns. So you can just crank this thing up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working on a little project here. I was looking through the API docs for OpenAI, run into the reasoning effort new API parameter, and went on that tangent. Um, but yeah, dude, I think the intuition is generally right. I had not heard about what you just mentioned, Brandon, that we're not even scratching the diminishing returns of effort. So basically, you're stating that the longer you let the model think, the better responses are, and there's no like what does this curve look like? Like, is it asymptotically? Are we continuing to increase linearly, or
We
what
haven't
have you seen?
I have not seen a problem it cannot solve if it has context. Full stop. That's just my experience, right? Like it's like if you were to drop a genius into a community, but the genius had no indication of like the goals of the community or the SOPs or the processes or the names of everyone. Like it sounds like a not smart person when they have no context. So I think what we're just seeing right now is we have this like extremely high IQ system that we need to provide a little bit of teaching to it. So I think, yeah,
But
we're just
isn't it
starting to
already
scratch.
taught, right? Like that's how it got the IQ.
It's taught same thing as a smart person. It's taught like the internet, but the internet isn't you asking a question while you're on the go and then it's able to answer it because it doesn't know about you, the preferences you have. It's giving the average of the internet as a response, which isn't useful by itself. It's useful when it's in context to you and your personality and your business and your what you
But
what you
we're
prefer.
talking about practical use cases, right? Where basically, yeah, you give it enough context, it's gonna be better, sure. But when we talk about more like objective use cases, like I mean, I don't think that if you somehow had access to the bare collection of models that make up the latest reasoning model by OpenAI, and you told it to think for I don't know 10 years, it's not gonna solve the Riemann hypothesis or any other really hard problem, right? I don't think that's where we're at. I think for practical purposes, sure. I mean, frankly, I think the
Isn't
line
that
of
AGI though?
practicality.
Are we talking? Are we now we're talking ASI? Are we talking AGI still?
Yeah. I mean, just generally advancing human knowledge. Frankly, like going through
I don't think
and
that's
coming up with new
AGI.
ideas or solutions.
That's not AGI though. Like the
That's
way I
fine. That's
said,
fine.
AGI is a good educated person doing valuable work in society. Riemann hypothesis, no, we're not there for sure. I just think like we are there. We're there for
Hundred
sure with
percent. No,
AGI. It's just
there. I
not.
agree.
It's not. You can't like feel it yet. You know.
I think if you define AGI as that as someone who can have parity and perform as well as any minimally educated person performs, yeah. I mean, I don't know over the stats, but like I think the latest model was like the highest tier was basically having a personal PhD student that you could just like use for whatever. Of course, I mean, but even for most end user use cases, the line of usefulness has already been
Yes.
blown out of the water, man. Like I don't talk to Google anymore. I
Yes.
always just talk to any model. I ask any questions. I ask a million questions about my dog, diets, ideas, trips, whatever. Right? Of course. But then and even what you see, Brandon, in business context, right, where you actually want this agent to be useful beyond just like an end user, but actually be useful for business. I also think we are there, and maybe this is more recent. Like we are there. I don't know,
But we did
few
this.
months ago.
Yeah, we did this. We already defined, the three of us, what AGI would be.
Yeah,
Oh,
but again,
do we
like
have that
We
recording?
have that recording.
I gotta get
We'll
it.
find
it's
it.
it's posted somewhere.
Yeah, it's posted somewhere, and I think it's good to look
Well,
back
wait.
at that.
Can we do? Can we redefine it right now before we all try to go and
No, no,
re-architect our
we should
vision?
listen to that first. I kind
I
of
want to know what.
remember
Yeah,
mine.
I remember mine.
I kind
I
of
remember
I don't
remember
mine.
remember
mine.
mine.
Yours
I'd
was,
be interested to see if I can
yeah.
say it again.
Say
Maybe. Yeah.
No, actually think yours is exactly what you're saying now, Brendan. Because this wasn't too long ago. It was like 2 months ago. Where basically when you have an agent, I don't want to quote you or anything, but when you have an agent that can actually perform at parity with like any working member of society,
Yeah, you were talking about
I think that's AGI.
employees. You're like, if I could, yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
you were
yeah.
talking about it being like a full-time employee for the company. And then we added some stuff on top of it, and we said, well, if it can go out and find another job and then negotiate with you to keep you,
Yeah.
that's when it's AGI, right? Because I think right now, what I think Sam's getting at as well is many of these models are able to perform as a full-time team member in most companies, right? Like they're able to at least pull that much weight. But what really makes
No,
them like the AGI threshold?
I
Or
think
not?
my response is very tangential to this employee definition, and I think it's interesting, Brandon, because we look at very different subsets of AI, and I think in the world that you're seeing, man, I think models are models have reached that point where the line of practicality has been blown out of the water. Like it's insane. It's they're super useful, super practical, and it makes sense. And it's just like a matter of economics. But what I see on my neck of the woods is the sheer stupidity that the best models out there have. The moment that you throw them at tasks that involves understanding the physical world, man, is laughable. Laughable. You can literally grab the latest thinking model by OpenAI, give it an image of a hand with 6 fingers, ask it what is wrong with this image, it will not be able to tell you what it is wrong with that image. And that is just fucking baffling to me, man. And to me, that's the definition of AGI, right? Like multimodality, right? And context switching across modalities. So that's the definition for me of AGI. And what I see, man, is that we're so far. And I'm sure it's gonna happen faster than I expect it to happen, and I already expect it to happen quite fast. But I think we're still very far. We're very, very far.
Yeah, I guess if you
It's
are
exciting.
going to call it general intelligence, then that multimodality is critical, right? Like, otherwise, it's a very smart model, but it's not a generally intelligent model.
And that was my definition too. Was basically when you have the same model that can perform really well as a data scientist, but can also perform really well as a truck driver, but can also go and make me a coffee. If you give it the right hardware, then that's AGI for me. And I think the delta is still large. And of course, like the tooling, right? And in this case, when you go into the physical world, the tooling becomes hands and appendages and wheels or whatever the fuck you're gonna give your embodied system tools to move around. I think that's also a really big piece that is missing.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll have to pull that clip again and
We do,
reset the
and
and write it down
and we'll see
somewhere.
what.
Yeah, so that because it sounds like it's already changing, and we told ourselves we wouldn't change it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the space is moving crazily fast.
That's right.
But all right, man, gents. Any final remarks or any final topics? We've been at it for almost like I don't know,
Yeah.
45 minutes.
I know what my AGI definition is. My new one is going to be I joined this call and it's not me. And you guys go a whole recording
Without
talking to me.
realizing, yeah.
And then I come in
That's
next
good.
to it and I'm like, it confirmed.
Yeah.
Told you guys. Yeah.
Okay.
That's good. That's good.
That's a good one.
All right, gents. Well, I guess we'll see you all in 2 weeks with more updates about the tech and finance and business world. And thank you so much. Fun as always.
Thank you.